The look back is really fortunate today. We have Pankaj Srivastav here. Sorry for butchering your name, but the president and CEO at Renaissance Park Corporation. We've met a few times, we've chatted a few times, and I thought to have you on the podcast because you have such a great background of both of building companies, but also somebody who has really taken the thought of how to build a startup effectively down to its root core. So in this conversation on the look back, Pankaj, we're going to talk blockchain. We're going to talk hemp. We're going to talk industrial revolution. We're going to talk, a whole bunch of other things. But we also want to get into how you started in this tech world. I think that's pretty interesting when we last talked, as well as how you built and landed to this place where we're at now. And personally, as I shared with you, I like to host people on the podcast that have a passion for building startups, being a productive member of the startup ecosystem, telling useful stories that other entrepreneurs can learn from, but also some people that are looking to make a social impact. And I thought you checked all those boxes. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you kind of agree?
Yeah, so first of all, Keith, it's an honor. It's an honor. And we met at an event and we just started joking with each other, and that led to this. So that's the way startups are built as well, right? Because you get an idea from anywhere, and then you make it a point to kind of be deliberate about it and do something significant with it. So first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. Happy to be here, an honor. And I kind of agree. I have a very fortunate history, I would say. I met the right people at the right time. I've had the right mentors. The only thing I did was keep my eyes and ears open. I was ready to receive. And I think that's probably the number one lesson of my life, that you can't be too drinking your own Kool-Aid, right? You can't believe that you are it ever, and you always have to be open to new ideas, new thoughts, and keep your ears open. And that has led to a journey I'm very, very grateful for.
No, that's great. So take us back to your beginnings. I know I don't want to reveal but I know how you started in this industry and your big break, as they say.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. It's an age-old romantic story. Okay. So I was
Tale
working
as
in
old as time.
Yeah, exactly, Keith. So, I was working as a consultant, and I don't think much about consultants any longer, but, I used to be one at the start of my career in Virginia, and I happened to meet a girl, and I met her for a week, and I kind of knew she was the one for me. And she was in the Bay Area. I met her in Virginia, and I chased after a girl. So basically, 3 months after I met her, I quit my job in Virginia and I moved to the Bay Area without any understanding of what the Bay Area is all about. I landed here. And it was a dangerous thing for me to do because, I had 5 weeks remaining on my visa. So if I didn't find a job in the first 5 weeks I was here in the Bay Area, I would be heading back to India. So very dangerous move to do, but I'm very lucky that it panned out the way it did. So I took the first job I got. It happened to be the first e-commerce company ever built on the planet. They opened doors in 1992. I joined them in early 97. And on my third day, Keith, I realized I knew nothing about what this internet is, what e-commerce is, and I was clueless about my own job. So I did another dangerous thing, right? I walk into my boss's office, Ken, and I asked him the question. I said, "Hey, Ken, I know nothing about anything, including my job. Why did you hire me?" And he gave me two lessons that became the foundation for my entire career. My entire career is based on those two lessons. So the first thing he said to me was, Pankaj, whenever you want to innovate, break through, do something new or fresh, overweigh curiosity over experience. And curiosity begins with an understanding of you do not know. You just proved me right by telling me what you do not understand. I hired the right person. The second lesson he gave me was he said, I don't know what your job is either. So the only thing I will tell you is go figure it out. But keep in mind that the person who is most intimate with the customer becomes the most influential person in the company. Your job is to become the most influential person in the company. I said, got it. And I left. I didn't see him for 6 weeks because I used to go to work at 4 in the morning, learning the job and understanding customers. 3 months after that, I came up with a new business plan. I pitched it to the CEO. He asked me to run it as an experiment, and that became our business. He gave me a team of 4 people. It was my first taste of entrepreneurship. I built that business from 0 to 23 million in about 11 months, which was the exact size of our core business back then. And that became our business. We sold it for a couple $100 million, 2 years after that. So Ken's lesson of, understanding customers at a deeper level, not just what they want or what jobs they want to do, but really understanding the pain points and the value the customer wants to create. That's where you end up making a substantial business and substantial difference to customers.
Yeah,
So
too
that was
often.
my start in
Yeah.
the valley, and I've used those two lessons multiple times. I'll just give you one quick example. Post this experience, I was recruited by McAfee, a cybersecurity company. They were dabbling with the whole subscription model. This is early 2001, and there was no technology. What is now known as SaaS did not exist. There was no playbook. So I was recruited to kind of figure it out. And I land in there, I'm like, how do I figure it out? My team looks exactly like me, similar background from an educational standpoint, work experiences standpoint. How do I break through and ask different questions? So in my second week, I went about hiring a new team. I hired a musician, a journalist, and an ex-football player on the team. And I gave them a job description, which is read exactly the same. It was a single sentence and it said, ask us questions. That was the entirety of the job description for those 3 people. And my God, they asked us questions. And based on those questions, Keith, we ran 800 experiments in 7 months to figure out what a subscription business in technology ought to look like. We wrote the first SaaS metrics that are now commonplace back in 2001. We took that business from an $80 million annual revenue to 1 billion in revenue in 5.5 years. And built the first flywheel when it came to subscription and SaaS business models. And we sold that business to Intel for $11.5 billion. So very grateful for Ken and his lessons. I continue to utilize them. And if people are willing to listen to me, I keep telling them those two lessons are the most important ones.
It's funny too. So many people over-index toward the technology, right? And like not focusing as much on usability or the customer need and the customer use model and really understanding that deeply. And I loved it. I think that's partly what attracted me to this conversation, really, is keeping that balance. Yes, it's great to build technology that's going to create this huge differentiation for the marketplace, and this great moat for yourself as a company. But ultimately, if you don't really understand how it's going to be, how this technology is going to be implemented, used, and how it's going to be evaluated, you're missing a big part of the overall solution.
Yeah, yeah, no, and that's a vital point, essential, I would say, right? Now, over the last 5 or 6 years, I think there's a wide recognition of the fact that, technology is less important, experience is way more important, right? Even in enterprise software, experience has taken over the key role in both in terms of, customer acquisition, retention, but also adoption of the technology, right? So I cannot but agree 100% with you that experience is most important. But the key thing is experience is not just, UX design, right? Experience is the deep understanding of how people embrace stuff, right? So it again boils down to getting deeper into the understanding of how a customer wants to create value for themselves and their own customers, right? And that comes with the practice of truly understanding your own customer, right? So I'll give you an example. So we were building the world's first, privacy company. This is a while back. And we all had opinions, right? Everybody has opinions on what that means. And we were all, citizens of the internet. So we all had a view on what privacy means to each one of us. But it is only after talking to real customers did we really understand that privacy is not about keeping your data private. This was a huge insight through a 3-month long process where we did, interviews across the world of actual consumers. And regardless of cultures, we did it in 14 different countries, all of Europe, North America, some Asian countries as well. And the one big insight that we drew from that was it is not about keeping my information private. Because you know what? We share our information because we want people to know about us. So privacy is not about not sharing data. It's about freedom to share as much data as I want. It completely did a 180-degree on our opinions to truly understand the minds of the customer. So we designed an application that allowed people to share their information with greater freedom. Exact opposite of how we were thinking about a
There is.
privacy company.
Yeah, great lesson there, Pankaj. I
Yeah.
I want to do our usual pivot now in the conversation because there's so much intrigue into what you're doing now. People are going to be very curious about how you take something like hemp and blockchain to try to create a new eco environment that's going to be more safe, more manageable, less expensive, better environmental impact, et cetera. So give us a little bit of background on how you got to Renaissance and what you're developing there.
Yeah, no, thank you for asking. I think it's a very, very important question, and I'm deeply grateful for having this opportunity, actually. So Renaissance and I got connected, the founder of the company, Steve Chinelli, and I got connected through a common friend. I knew nothing about the natural space industry at all. I came from a pure tech background. I never dealt with, farmers, for example. So when I got introduced to the idea of Renaissance and to give you the mission of the company is essentially how do we replace toxic ingredients with natural materials across hundreds of products, right? And why is that important? The reason it's important is we talk about climate change and we start doing things like carbon sequestration stuff. So, okay, we have damaged the climate already. Let's do our best to mitigate that damage. And we miss the point. Unless we fundamentally alter how we build, consume, and dispose of things, we will never solve the climate problem. We are dealing with symptoms, not the root causes, unless we alter that, right? So if we can produce superior products using natural ingredients, we will not create the climate damage in the first place. And that's the mission of the company. And I was seduced by the mission. And we started with, the idea of a natural ingredient called industrial hemp. Now, hemp is, controversial, and that controversy was created. It was manufactured controversy 80 years ago by some very, very powerful industrial tycoons, right? Because they wanted to keep their incumbent ingredient set protected, right? So I won't get into the controversy, but that's how we started. But since then, since I've joined the company, we've kind of expanded that thesis to other natural materials. Outside of hemp, we also have, rice and flax and indigo. There's a ton of crops out there that can lead to a better, healthier people as well as planet, right? So I'll just give you two use cases to make the point.
Perfect.
So
Please.
we talked about, electric vehicles, right? We, and by we, I mean the average Joe out there considers electric vehicles to be clean energy. It is not, because how we power those electric vehicles is with electric batteries. Electric batteries require rare earth minerals and materials like lithium, nickel, cobalt, extraction of these minerals is highly toxic to the climate. It is destroying the planet. If we were to replace every car today with an EV tomorrow, it will require us to increase lithium mining by 12,000%. It will destroy the planet. So unless we fundamentally alter how we build electric batteries, electric vehicles will not lead to a better climate. So one of our goals is to change how we build electric batteries. Would we replace nickel, cobalt, lithium with natural materials? And the answer is absolutely we can. There are hemp batteries being experimented on, which are biodegradable,
Yeah.
store twice the charge of a lithium ion battery. Imagine that scenario.
Wow.
So
Just
we
on
can
that alone. I mean,
just
forgetting
that
the, yeah.
exactly. Now, the other example that I talk about is construction, right? If you look at construction as an industry, it is the third largest polluter in the world. A third of carbon emissions are attributed to construction activities. What is the number one ingredient used in construction?
Uh,
Cement.
yeah, concrete.
To
Yeah.
manufacture, one ton of concrete, for example, requires immense amount of energy, immense amount of energy, right? What if we can replace some of these, toxic ingredients with natural materials like hemp wood, hempcrete, hemp insulation? Hempcrete is fireproof. So the recent LA fires that we all, looked at in horror, there's an amazing photo that somebody sent to me, a construction person, and there's a whole row of houses completely burned down with one house standing.
Yeah.
That house was built with hempcrete.
You're kidding me.
No,
I mean,
we
and
can
I'm
stop.
an LA native. That really hits home for me. But look, you're talking about some major improvements. So give us a sense of where you are on the journey with Renaissance and how are we going to get over this barrier, whether it's perceived or real, and help you get that kind of a broad adoption you're looking for.
Yeah, no, it's a hard problem, right? And I'll give you a quick side story. Apologies for that. But I was 17 years old. I was struggling with my calculus homework. My dad saw that. He came to me and he asked me, he said, "Hey, what's wrong?" I said, "It's so damn hard." And he kind of tapped me on my shoulders, Keith, and he said, "Son, sometimes you do things because they're hard, right?" And that led to many lessons later on in life. Number one being, unless you tackle a hard problem, you don't create substantial value, right? So I came into this knowing it's a very complex problem. It is an ecosystem level thesis. It's a systems thesis, not a problem solution thesis, right? Which has been my career, right? Here's a problem. Here's my technology to solve it. Here's an amazing team that can make the execution go flawlessly, right? Easy pitch. Renaissance isn't an easy pitch. Here we're talking about a variety of diverse stakeholders. We're talking about farmers. We're talking about manufacturing companies. We're talking about consumers. And we're talking about policymakers. How do we streamline a set of regulations that eases our ability to scale nature-based manufacturing? So there's a ton of work needs to be done. So we kind of simplified this. So there are three jobs we have to do. Number one, what we have to do is work on the demand side, not the supply side. So we are now building a consortium of manufacturing companies who are all already dabbling with natural substances as part of their key ingredient set for manufacturing products. And products like food, textiles, building materials, electric batteries, biofuels, those kinds of things, things we use on a day-to-day basis. Once we create the consortium of these manufacturing companies, that will create a larger view of demand for natural products, which creates the right set of incentives for farmers to grow more of those natural materials. That gets the flywheel moving, right? The second job we are doing is we're building the world's largest natural materials intelligence platform. Because we will be in a unique position of working with farmers and manufacturers and their supply chains, we have access to first party data on best manufacturing, best cultivation practices, and we can collate, condense these, and create these insights for anybody in the world to utilize
Nice.
to encourage more entrepreneurship
Right.
in natural-based manufacturing. What that does is further fuels demand, which further fuels supply,
Yeah.
building this amazing flywheel, right? And the third job is to create a long-term economic incentive, right? And that's where the blockchain technology comes in, right? So we're currently in our MVP stage of building a technology which will allow us to measure the impact of the right kind of cultivation of the right crops, the right manufacturing processes, utilizing natural ingredients, and tokenizing the impact that we're making to the climate on a blockchain ledger. That can be now monetized through carbon credits and offsets. And once that monetization occurs, our goal is to take that and pass those earnings back to the farmer, back to the manufacturing companies, creating this long-term incentive to stick together as a consortium so we can truly, truly make a positive impact long-term on the climate. So it's a pretty large thesis. It will require, the
Yeah.
world's
Yeah.
top
Well,
people to
listen,
come join the company. Yeah,
those journeys, they start with small steps and work their way into bigger ones, right?
exactly, exactly.
Where are you right now in terms of adoption, trials, use cases, revenue? Because all those things kind of come into play, don't they? They're similar go-to-market metrics.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So currently we are raising a Series B, right? That will allow us to start building the consortium. We have 37 candidates who want to work and become part of the consortium right now.
Great.
We have 6 term sheets out there with those candidates to kind of get the ecosystem going on the consortium side. That 6 company portfolio to get started with represents $180 million in revenue with profitable EBITDA. So one thing I'm very keen on is not run this as an experiment because this is so complex. You can't say, you know what, it'll take 5 years to get to revenue.
Yeah.
I want to start with revenue. We want to create early wins and substantial early wins for our investors right off the bat. So we are
Yeah.
working with companies who are already kind of doing natural based, manufacturing, but they are struggling because they're working in an insular fashion. By conjoining these guys together, we can immediately start scaling these operations, right? So their interest is the consortium, our interest is revenue, right?
Yeah,
And
it sounds like some kind of standards body that you're working under, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And maybe there is one where it's a hemp-based or natural-based kind of product with a seal of approval, a demarcation, as well as the, indelible ledger of a blockchain to handle payment and distribute payment.
Yeah, yeah. Can I let the cat out of the bag on
Yeah,
something that
that's
is
what we love doing.
at least a year out?
Yeah,
So imagine you're walking in a retail store, right? And you pick up any product, right? It could be food, it could be clothes, it could be a bunch of other things, right? And there's a barcode, right? Or a QR code, whatever it might be. And you scan it with your phone and it tells you your carbon footprint as a consumer and compares it to other products, like products, and suggests to you which product helps you reduce your personal carbon footprint. What would that be? What could that do from not just an awareness standpoint, but from an adoption standpoint, right? So we are working on technology that can quickly look at an ingredient set printed on a box and tell you if you consume this versus other natural material based in products, how much personal impact you can make towards a better planet, right? These are some, and this is not an easy technology, right? So we're building that technology with a partner right now. It's about a year out for it to be meaningful. So yeah, technology will play a substantial role in doing this. And one last thing, Keith, that I think about all the time, you know, I've been, I like what Tom Steyer said in his recent book. He's a big climate activist right here in San Francisco, right? And he's devoted his life to it, and I'm a huge admirer. And he didn't talk. He said everybody is a climate person, right? There is no ideology. Everybody is a climate person because we
Right.
all share the planet, right? So I love that. It's beautiful, elegant, and simple. So when you start thinking like that, the most important thing becomes how do we present people with better products so they don't have to debate in their head, do
Yeah.
I pay an extra dime because I want
Yep.
to protect the planet? I
Right.
don't want that to be a question in people's minds.
Right.
I go buy a shirt because this is a better shirt.
Yeah.
That's it. That
Yeah.
should be the only thing consumers have to think about. How do we get it to that level where we produce, affordable but better products? And that's the mission of the company.
You're on the right path. I like your energy. I know there's still a lot of pieces that need to be glued together, but you're the guy to do it, man. This is great.
I appreciate that, Keith.
I
You
like
know,
the social impact. I know we can go on for a long
yeah,
time, but let me just do this. Let
yeah.
me ask you, how can we follow you, stay in touch with the progress here? And we will.
So LinkedIn is probably the best. It's the one thing I use most often.
I'll
It's
put that in the notes for the recording then. Pankaj, thank you so much for your time. It was great catching up.
likewise, Keith. Thank you again for having me.
You bet.